The Hat Man. The Old Hag. Shadow People. The Incubus. The Strangler. 5 entities. Seen by millions of people across different countries, different cultures, different time periods. Same descriptions. Same behaviors. Same terror. If these are hallucinations, why are they so consistent? Why does the human brain generate the exact same demons over and over again? In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you what neuroscience has discovered about these entities. The brain mechanisms that create them. The evolutionary reasons they exist. And why, even though we know they're not real, they feel more real than reality itself. And by the end, you'll understand something that will change how you see consciousness. Your brain is more powerful and more terrifying than you ever imagined. Before I explain the science, I need to give you the conclusion first. Because what researchers have discovered is so elegant, so perfect, that you need to know where we're going. The 5 demons aren't random. They're not cultural contamination. They're not internet myths. They're archetypal threats hardwired into human neurology. Your brain contains a threat library. A catalog of the most dangerous things humans have encountered across hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. And during sleep paralysis, when your consciousness is awake but your body is paralyzed, your brain accesses that library. And it shows you the 5 most primal threats. The 5 things that could kill you while you're vulnerable. That's why everyone sees the same demons. They're not demons. They're survival programs. Keep watching because I'm going to break down each one. Show you the neuroscience. And explain why your brain thinks it's saving your life by terrifying you. Demon number 1, the Watcher. Also known as the Hat Man or Shadow People in stationary form. This entity stands still. Observes. Doesn't attack. Just watches. And it appears in approximately 70% of all sleep paralysis episodes. Here's why. During sleep paralysis, your amygdala is hyperactive. The amygdala is your brain's fear center. Threat detector. And it's screaming at you that something is wrong. You're awake but you can't move. Your body won't respond to commands. This triggers a survival protocol. Your brain needs to identify why you're paralyzed. In nature, paralysis means one thing: a predator has you. Something caught you. Grabbed you. Is holding you down. So your brain generates the most likely source of that paralysis. A presence. An observer. A predator watching you. Deciding whether to attack. This is the Watcher. Your visual cortex, receiving signals from the hyperactive amygdala, creates a visual representation of threat. And what's the most threatening visual? A humanoid figure. Because throughout human evolution, the most dangerous predator has been other humans. Rival tribes. Attackers. Intruders. So your brain creates a human-shaped figure. But it doesn't give it details. Because during actual threats, fine details don't matter. Shape matters. Silhouette matters. Size matters. So the Watcher is always a dark, vague, human-shaped figure. The Hat Man is just a specific version of this. The hat is a detail your pattern recognition system adds. It sees the elongated head and shoulder silhouette. And the closest match in your visual memory? Someone wearing a hat. So your brain completes the pattern. The hat is coincidental. The Watcher is universal. Demon number 2, the Intruder. This is the entity that moves. The walker. The approaching figure. Seen in about 25% of episodes. And it's more terrifying than the Watcher because it has intent. It's not just observing. It's approaching. Here's the science. Your parietal lobe processes spatial awareness. Where things are in relation to you. During sleep paralysis, this system goes haywire. It starts detecting movement where none exists. This is called illusory motion perception. And it happens because your brain is trying to track threats. In the wild, a motionless threat is less dangerous than a moving threat. If a predator is approaching, you need to know. You need to track its movement. Predict its trajectory. Decide whether to fight or flee. So during sleep paralysis, your spatial awareness system generates movement. creates the perception that something is approaching, even though nothing is there. This is the intruder. Your brain showing you a threat in motion. And because motion equals danger, the intruder is rated as more frightening than the watcher in subjective fear assessments. Your brain knows approaching threats are deadlier than static ones. Demon number 3, the incubus. The entity that sits on your chest. The crushing weight. The old hag. This appears in 40% of episodes. And it has a clear physiological cause. During REM sleep, your breathing is partially inhibited. Your diaphragm still works. But accessory breathing muscles, the ones in your chest and ribs, are paralyzed along with everything else. When you wake up during this state, you feel the inhibition. Your breathing is restricted. Not stopped, but restricted. And your brain interprets this as external pressure. If you can't breathe normally, something must be blocking your airways. Pressing on your chest. Suffocating you. So your brain creates a visual explanation for the physical sensation. An entity. Sitting on you. Pressing down. This is the incubus. The demon that crushes. And here's why it's often seen as an old woman, the old hag. Cross-cultural studies show that threatening female figures are common in nightmares across all societies. The witch. The crone. The hag. These are universal archetypes. And they represent a specific evolutionary fear. Female predators in nature are often more dangerous than males. Female lions do the hunting. Female spiders eat their mates. Female humans, in times of resource scarcity, committed infanticide. So the old hag isn't random. She's an evolutionary threat category. A maternal figure turned predator. Now I'm going to tell you about the fourth demon. And this one is the most disturbing. Because it doesn't just watch or approach or crush. It interacts. It touches. It whispers. And the science behind it reveals something terrifying about how your brain constructs reality. Keep watching because what I'm about to explain will make you question every sensory experience you've ever had. Demon number 4, the whisperer. The entity that speaks. That breathes in your ear. That touches you. This appears in about 15% of episodes. And it's caused by something called cross-modal sensory integration failure. Your brain takes input from multiple senses and combines them into a coherent experience. Visual plus auditory plus tactile equals reality. But during sleep paralysis, this integration breaks down. Your auditory cortex is still processing sounds. But it's receiving them in a weird state. You're conscious but your sensory gating is disrupted. Normally your thalamus filters out irrelevant sounds. Breathing. Heartbeat. Blood flow. Room ambient noise. You don't consciously hear these things even though they're always there. But during sleep paralysis, the filter fails. You hear your own breathing. But your brain doesn't recognize it as yours. It attributes it to an external source. Someone else. Breathing next to you. This is the whisperer. Your own sounds misattributed to an entity. And it gets worse. Your somatosensory cortex, which processes touch, also misfires. It generates phantom sensations. Touches. Pressure. Movement on your skin. Again misattributed. You feel something touching you. But it's your own nervous system glitching. And the whispers? Those are auditory hallucinations. Your brain generating speech patterns from white noise. Pareidolia but for sound. You hear air moving through vents. Your own breathing. Distant sounds from outside. And your auditory cortex, desperate to make sense of ambiguous input, constructs words. Phrases. Whispers. This is why people report hearing their name. Or threats. Or warnings. The brain is pattern completing random noise into meaningful speech. The whisperer isn't whispering. Your brain is listening too hard. Demon number 5, the strangler. The entity that chokes you. That wraps hands around your throat. That suffocates. This is rarer. About 8% of episodes. But it's the most terrifying. And it combines elements of the incubus with tactile hallucinations. During sleep paralysis, some people feel pressure specifically on their neck. This happens because of vasovagal response. Your vagus nerve, which controls heart rate and blood pressure, is being stimulated by the stress of the paralysis. This can cause sensations in the throat and neck. Tightness, pressure, difficulty swallowing. Your brain interprets this as strangulation, choking, and it generates a visual explanation. Hands around your throat. An entity strangling you. The strangler. And here's the evolutionary logic. Strangulation is how predators kill. Big cats bite the neck. Constrictor snakes wrap around the throat. Humans strangle each other in combat. So throat pressure equals mortal danger. Your brain shows you the strangler because it thinks you're being killed. And it wants you to fight. To escape. But you can't. Because you're paralyzed. So the terror intensifies. This is the survival program backfiring. Trying to save you by terrifying you into action. But action is impossible. Now here's what ties all 5 demons together. They're all based on real threats. Predators. Attackers. Suffocation. Strangulation. These are actual dangers humans have faced for millennia. Your brain isn't inventing random monsters. It's showing you the greatest hits of things that kill humans. And it's doing this because evolution favors false positives. Better to see a threat that isn't there than to miss a threat that is. So during sleep paralysis, when your brain is confused and your body is unresponsive, it defaults to the worst-case scenario. It shows you demons. Not because demons are real, but because your ancestors who saw threats everywhere were more likely to survive. But here's the paradox. If these are just survival programs, just evolutionary responses, why do they feel so real? Why do people, even after learning the science, still report feeling like the entities are present? Like they're more than hallucinations? I'm going to explain this in the next 2 minutes. And what I'm about to tell you will change how you understand consciousness itself. Your brain doesn't distinguish between real and imagined threats. To your amygdala, a hallucination is as real as an actual danger. Because the processing is identical. When you see the Hat Man, your visual cortex is firing the same way it would if a real person was standing there. When you feel the old hag, your somatosensory cortex is generating the same signals it would if something was actually pressing on you. Your brain can't tell the difference. And neither can you. Because consciousness is just neural firing. And neural firing is neural firing. Real or imagined, the experience is identical. This is why people who see sleep paralysis entities, even after learning the science, still feel like something was there. Because from your brain's perspective, something was there. The demons are neurologically real. Even if they're not physically real. And this raises a disturbing question. If hallucinations are neurologically identical to reality, what is reality? How do you know anything you experience is real and not just neurons firing in convincing patterns? You don't. You can't. You take it on faith that most of the time, your sensory input corresponds to actual external objects. But during sleep paralysis, that faith is broken. You see things that aren't there. Feel things that don't exist. And your brain insists they're real. Because to your brain, they are real. Here's what this means for you. If you experience sleep paralysis and see any of these 5 demons, remember this. They're survival programs. Your brain trying to save you. They're not evil. They're not supernatural. They're evolutionary biology working exactly as designed. And the fact that they're terrifying is proof that they're working. Fear is supposed to motivate action. Escape. Defense. Fight or flight. But during sleep paralysis, action is impossible. So the fear has nowhere to go. It just builds. And builds. And builds. Until you break free. But now you know. The Hat Man is your threat detection system. The old hag is your breathing inhibition misinterpreted. The whisperer is your own sounds misattributed. The intruder is illusory motion perception. The strangler is vasovagal response. They're all you. Your brain. Malfunctioning in predictable ways. And once you know that, they lose some of their power. Not all. They'll still be frightening. But they'll be explicable. And explicable fear is manageable fear. My next video covers the outliers. The entities that don't fit into these 5 categories. The ones that can't be explained by current neuroscience. Because yes, there are reports that don't match the model. And that's the most fascinating part. When the science doesn't explain everything, what are we missing? Subscribe so you don't miss it. And to your brain, thank you for trying to keep me alive. Thank you for showing me threats that aren't there. Thank you for the Hat Man and the old hag and all the demons. I understand now. You're just doing your job. And I appreciate the effort. Even if the execution is terrifying. Sleep well. Trust the science. And remember, the demons aren't after you. They're trying to save you. In the worst possible way. I'll see you in the comments. And hopefully, not in your nightmares.